Well, thank you, Sophie, for that very kind introduction. Gaelic Haslad, good afternoon, everyone. How's everybody doing? Good. Well, I am incredibly proud to be able to speak before all of you today, and certainly speak after the honourable and amazing Carol James, Minister of Finance for the province of British Columbia. And I want to be able to thank all of you for having me here. Thank We for She, British Columbia, for inviting me to speak. And before I begin and make some comments, I want to, of course, acknowledge the traditional territory of the Coast Salish peoples, the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh, and thank them for allowing us to have this important meeting on their territory. And I am actually amazed at the number of young and older women that are in the room, and recognize that there's as many people in this room, there are as many stories. And I feel privileged that I have been asked to come up here to tell you a little bit about my story. And for me, and kind of reflecting on what the minister just said, and I was telling my director of communications when I was on my way here, I'm incredibly nervous. I find it incredibly nerve-wracking to speak in front of an amazing group, but to speak about myself. I don't know if anybody else feels nervous when they get up to speak, but to speak about oneself is a little bit daunting. But today I would like to tell you a little bit about my background, a little bit about my story, my lived experience, speak about my incredible role that I'm in right now as a Member of Parliament for Vancouver-Granville and as the Minister of Justice and Attorney General of Canada. And then maybe speak a little bit to We for She, about what we're all doing here, about working hard to achieve gender equality and to be the best that we can be. And as Minister James said, maybe provide a little bit of advice from myself. So I'm standing here as an incredibly proud Indigenous person in this country, an incredibly proud Canadian. As Sophie was speaking about, I'm here as the 51st Minister of Justice and Attorney General of Canada. I'm the third female to hold this position, and this is what Sophie was saying, I'm the first Indigenous woman to hold this position. So let me tell you a little bit about my story and where I come from. I am a proud member of the Muskama, Zawadanuk, and Liquichta Nation, part of the Kwakwaka'wakw. I come from a small community called Cape Mudge on an island called Quadra Island. There's somebody from Quadra Island here. There we go. I come from the Kwakwala-speaking people, and we are a matrilineal society, which means that descent is traced and property is transferred through the female line. We have hereditary chiefs, always men, hereditary chiefs that are groomed from the time that they're young to lead, to become chiefs. My father, Himas Klalilikla, is the hereditary chief of our clan, the Eagle clan. His name means number one amongst the eagles, the chief that is always there to help. He was given this name in a potlatch, which is our traditional form of governance, one that we still practice as Kwakwaka'wakw. It is here where our names are passed down, given from generation to generation. It is where our laws are made, disputes settled, people married, and where wealth is redistributed. It is in our potlatch, the highest-ranking male leaders are called hamatsa. Rank is reflected in positions and names, which bring with them considerable responsibility and obligations. My grandmother's name was Pugladi. This is the highest-ranking name in our clan. Her name means a good host, and that was the name that was given to my older sister, Corey, You may have seen her on the stage before lunch. She holds the name that was passed down to her from my grandmother, and my traditional name is Pugles, which means a woman born to noble people. My sister and I were given our names in a potlatch when I was 5, and my sister was 6. So my grandmother, our grandmother, Pugledi, ensured that both my sister and I knew our culture, knew our values, the laws of our big house, and how to conduct oneself as leaders. One of my jobs in our potlatch is to lead the hamatsa, the chief, into the big house. This is a role that can be translated as one who corrects the chief's path. It's called hiligalasti. That's me. This role is something that I was given when I was very young. We, as Higalasti, show the chiefs the way. It is a metaphor for life, and in the potlatch, symbolized by our rituals, where the symbolic power of the hamatsa is tamed, and he becomes ready to be chief. My grandmother used to joke that, and in our culture, no women are chiefs, but my grandmother used to joke that women and their respective roles in our society and our community, women are too busy to be chief because we're busy running the community. It's kind of a joke, but it's kind of true at the same time. We come from a communitarian culture. Everybody in our community has a role to play in order for the community to work well. The roles are very different in communities, but every role in our community is equally important in terms of ensuring the community functions the way that it should. We call it balance. In fact, our whole system was about balance, balance between men and women, balance between clans, and balance between tribes. I, like I know so many of you, or if not all of you, come from a very loving and supportive family. My grandmother and parents certainly raised me to be proud of who I am, to know where I come from, and to believe in myself and recognize my rights as an Indigenous person, but also my responsibilities. I was raised to lead from a very young age. My family, as I said, instilled me with a sense of community and duty, that I had something to give back, something to contribute, to use my skills and abilities, such as they are, to help to improve the quality of life for our people. And in particular, with respect to Indigenous peoples, to advance Aboriginal title and rights and ensure that Indigenous peoples find themselves in the Constitution of Canada. So it was from this perspective and this upbringing that I was able to become a provincial Crown prosecutor, to be the regional chief of the Assembly of First Nations for almost 6 years, and to the place where I am right now as the Minister of Justice and Attorney General of Canada and the Member of Parliament for Vancouver-Granville. Both my grandmother and my father were strong advocates for Indigenous rights in Canada. They fought hard against long-lasting policies and legislation that imposed colonial systems of government over Indigenous peoples. They fought hard for improving the roles of women in our community to get back to the place where we have balance. During their time, some facts, Inuit men and women in our country were not given the right to vote until 1950. For First Nations peoples, we were not given the right to vote federally until 1960. And it is incredibly amazing to me to think about how some 50 years ago, I myself would not have been able to vote or able to run for office. Certainly, I would not have been able to be in the position that I am now. This is an incredible transformation and a reflection of the enormous change that can happen over a generation. And as Minister James was talking about, I never actually, when I was a young person, although I knew I needed to get involved in public service and community, I never had a dream of being a member of Parliament. I certainly didn't dream of being a minister of the Crown. But I firmly believe that everything in life happens for a reason, that the universe unfolds as it should, and that positions and opportunities present themselves by virtue of the political process, by virtue of life unfolding. And so I'm where I'm supposed to be. And maybe I can tell you a little bit about my role now as the Minister of Justice and why I think this is the place where I'm supposed to be. So I met, or after being elected, amazingly, in October of 2015, on November the 4th of the same year, the Prime Minister swore in our gender-balanced cabinet, and I was sworn in as the 51st Minister of Justice. And for me, of course, it's an incredible personal accomplishment to be minister, but to me, it reflects how far, as I said it before, we've come as a country, where an individual who didn't have the right to vote, where laws discriminated against my people and to a certain degree still does, now holds this position in our amazingly diverse country. I, as Minister of Justice and Attorney General, and to a great degree as Member of Parliament, take my incredible responsibilities and duties and the instructions that the Prime Minister has given me in my incredibly long mandate letter very seriously. People ask me, what's it like to be the Minister of Justice? And I just asked Carol James, what's it like to be the Minister of Finance? And for me, like her, a similar answer, it is the toughest job that I've ever had. I've always worked really hard, but I've never worked harder in my entire life than I have since becoming Minister of Justice. It is an incredible responsibility, and there are incredible challenges that we face, but I have never been so empowered to ensure that I meet the opportunities that are presented to me in this position that I hold, and to take advantage of this opportunity to ensure that I do everything that I can to achieve my mandate letter commitments, to ensure that we maintain laws and a political system in this country that will ensure that everybody, no matter who you are or where you come from, but if you work hard and if you have a plan, we have a legal and political system that will protect you, regardless of your race, regardless of your sexual orientation, regardless of your faith, and regardless if you're a man or if you're a woman. So for my part as the Minister of Justice, Attorney General, I have the incredible honor and responsibility to uphold the Charter of Rights and Freedoms and Section 35 of the Constitution Act of 1982. And as we celebrate its 35th anniversary this year, I continue to be amazed by its power as a force for progress, compassion, and fairness. It protects us and connects us all everywhere in our country. Since becoming minister, I've had the opportunity to pass legislation around medical assistance in dying, an incredibly emotional and challenging topic. I've had the great pleasure to work with my colleagues to introduce legislation and pass legislation, Bill C-16, that protects individuals' gender identity and gender expression in the Criminal Code and in the Canadian Human Rights Act, so everybody can be free to be themselves. I am tasked with looking at the criminal justice system and ensuring public safety, fairness, and compassion for victims, and recognizing that the criminal justice system has an overwhelming impact on marginalized individuals, including women and girls. I have had the opportunity, working across the country, to appoint more than 130 Superior Court justices. More than half of those justices are women, and reflect the diversity that makes our country amazing. I am working with amazing colleagues right across our cabinet table to work on a gender-based violence strategy, to work to ensure pay equity, to ensure that we address harassment in the workplace and sexual violence against women and girls. And I've had the opportunity to work with colleagues to look at and tackle the recognition of Indigenous peoples, their rights and title in this country, and ensure that we are approaching in a substantive nation-to-nation way reconciliation with Indigenous peoples so that they become part of the economy, become part of the country. These are a few of the opportunities and the work that we're doing. We're working incredibly hard with all the provinces and territories, with the province of British Columbia, because when you're in these positions, you not only take on and understand the responsibility you have, but recognize that there's that opportunity. So there's my personal story, a little bit about my experience as Minister of Justice and Attorney General. I know that everybody in this room has a story and has passions and a desire to achieve something, whether it be in an elected role, whether it be to be the best parent you can be, to be an educator. I met a young woman named Phyllis that wants to be a natural resource lawyer and is looking to go to university, to law school. For me, and maybe this is my advice and why conferences like We for She are so incredibly important, is that it brings together hundreds and thousands of young women and some men, I know there's some men in here, to talk about your stories, your personal experiences, the challenges that you've faced, and to know in facing those challenges and embracing successes that you're not alone, that other people have faced similar challenges. But some advice, I'm standing here nervous and recognizing that I'm 46 years old, and I'm standing here because of the support of my grandmother, the support of my parents, the support of my family, and the support of my friends. I once went to Minerva's Learning to Lead, a weekend where I listened to an amazing keynote speaker, and she talked about what inspired her and talked about how she gets through certain days that are tough. And she's talked about having a board of directors around her, a board of directors of individuals, of people that will support you, that know who you are, that believe in you, and that want you to succeed. I have a board of directors. I can count them on one hand. I hope that you have board of directors around you. And these are the people that will tell you what needs to be said, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. They'll tell you when you're being silly. They'll tell you when you're doing something good. Make sure you have those supports around you. Mentorship is incredibly important. As Carol James said, find something as young women and girls that you're passionate about. Pursue it with vigor. Know that whatever it is that you want to achieve, you'll do it with support, that you have a role to play in our incredible community and in our country, and know that when you have success, when you fail, but most importantly, when you have success and you achieve your dreams and your passions, that we will all be there cheering you on and saying good job. We have a tremendous opportunity in our country as women, as girls, as Canadians, to ensure that everybody is able to fulfill their role, and in fulfilling their role to the best of their ability, we can achieve anything. Canada is such an amazingly diverse and profound country. As the Prime Minister says, we are a work in progress. Through initiatives and work like We for She, through the announcement of the Women Deliver Conference, everybody can play their role. Society will accomplish many great things when we are firing on all cylinders, when women and men and everybody has and is fulfilling the role that they're meant to play. And as my grandmother said to me and continues to say to me when I think about her, find something you're passionate about. Know you have something to contribute to community, and if you work hard and you have a plan, the universe is yours and you will accomplish what it is that you want to accomplish. Gaila Kusla, thank you so much for talking to me or listening to me, and I look forward to hopefully chatting with some of you. Thanks very much.